Conspiracy theories, never bought into them. JFK's magic bullet, chemtrails painting the sky, aliens dissecting cows in Nebraska, please. Just noise for people with too much time and not enough critical thinking. When the Pentagon finally coughed up those grainy UFO videos back in 2020, the Tic Tacs, the gimbals, I watched them like everyone else, scrolling through Twitter, mildly amused. Blurry shapes pulling impossible Gs. Okay. Probably just next-gen drones, atmospheric tricks, maybe some classified experimental tech the flyboys were testing, nothing to lose sleep over. Then came June 2021. The official UAP report, the United States government on record, admitting they had no damn clue what these things were. Unidentified aerial phenomena. That night I remember cracking open another cheap beer, laughing at the memes flooding my feed. Aliens confirmed. Sure, whatever. Wake me when they land on the White House lawn, asking for our leader. Or maybe just probe me, put me out of my misery. 2 years later, the laughter died in my throat. It choked on dust, fear, and the sickening realization that the punchline was on me, on all of us. My name is Timothy Weiss, or it was. Now I'm just data, a loose end. I used to be a number cruncher, a data analyst for Omnicorp Solutions, a mid-level defense contractor out in the Nevada sprawl. Sounds important, right? Wrong. My job was the definition of beige bureaucracy, analyzing procurement logistics, finding efficiencies, in supply chains for military bases, staring at spreadsheets until my eyes bled. Mind-numbing, soul-crushing work, but the paycheck kept the lights on in my sterile Henderson apartment and funded my crippling streaming habit. My security clearance? Modest. Level 2B. Just enough to access the specific databases Omnicorp needed me to wrangle. Inventory manifests, shipping schedules, maintenance logs for places like Nellis Air Force Base. Nothing top secret, nothing exciting, or so I thought. It started, like most disasters, quietly. April 14th, 2023, a Friday. I was working late, buried under a quarterly report deadline. The office was deserted, bathed in the sickly fluorescent glow, the silence amplifying the clatter of my keyboard into cannon fire. I was deep in the Nellis supply chain data, tracking requisitions for specialized sensor components, when I saw it. A pattern, anomalous requisitions, small batches, high frequency, routed through obscure sub-departments, destination codes, that didn't match any active declared project I had access to. Materials involved exotic alloys, advanced cryocoolers, specific biological containment units. Weird stuff for routine-based logistics. I should have ignored it. Flagged it as a data entry error maybe. Closed the file, gone home. Microwaved some sad frozen dinner. Numbed myself with bad television. That's what sensible Tim would have done. But curiosity, it's a parasite. It burrows in, and boredom is its breeding ground. So, instead of logging off, I did what any data analyst drowning in monotony would do. I pulled the thread, I started digging, cross-referencing part numbers, tracking shipment origins, looking for connections. It was just interesting. A puzzle. 3 weeks later, the puzzle started fighting back. An unmarked envelope appeared in my apartment mailbox. Standard white business size, no return address, my name and address typed cleanly. Inside, a single sheet of thick, crisp paper. 10 typed rules. Stark, numbered, no letterhead, no signature, no clue to its origin, just the rules. And below them, a handwritten note scrawled in urgent, blocky letters. Follow these exactly if you want to live. You're already on their radar. My first instinct was to laugh. A prank? Some elaborate joke by a co-worker? But then, the chills started. The weird phone call 2 days prior, picked up, dead air, but a faint, rhythmic clicking like Morse code tapped on metal before the line disconnected. And the car. The black SUV, tinted windows, parked down the street from my building. Saw it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Same spot. Gone by Friday morning. Coincidence? Maybe. But now, coupled with this list, I read the rules again. The clinical, impersonal language sending shivers down my spine, despite the apartment's stale air. Area 51. The rules. Expanded script. Block 2. Narrator. 1. Do not use your personal phone for any communications related to your findings. 2. Do not discuss what you found with anyone, not colleagues, not friends, not family. 3. Maintain your normal routine. Any deviation will trigger enhanced surveillance. 4. If you see a red envelope on your desk, destroy it immediately without opening. 5. If you receive a call with the caller ID system admin, do not answer. Let it go to voicemail, then delete the message unlistened. 6. Delete your browser history and system cache daily at exactly 9:37 p.m. 7. If a man wearing a distinct blue tie asks you for the time, reply only, "It's later than you think." Do not engage further. And never take Highway 160 between 2:01 a.m. and 4:09 a.m. 9. If you see 3 black vehicles parked in sequence, take an indirect route home immediately. Do not proceed to your original destination. 10. When the time comes, follow the coordinates provided without question. I should have run, packed a bag, drained my bank account, bought a one-way ticket to somewhere remote, somewhere off the grid. Changed my name, disappeared. That's what a rational person faced with cryptic threats and evidence of surveillance would do, but rationality felt distant. The clinical precision of the rules, the sheer audacity of them, had a paralyzing effect. This wasn't random paranoia. This felt organized, structured. It felt like a system. And the handwritten note, someone on the inside trying to help me navigate something they couldn't explain directly. That thought lodged itself in my brain. Was this a warning system? A set of bizarre safety protocols for navigating an invisible minefield I'd stumbled into? Running felt like deviating from the routine. Running felt like admitting guilt, like confirming their suspicions. Running felt unsafe. Paradoxically, staying, obeying, felt like the path of least resistance, the only way to understand what invisible currents I was caught in. So, I stayed. I became an actor in my own life. I went to work, nodded politely to co-workers, pretended to analyze logistics data while my mind raced. I bought groceries, watched Netflix, forced myself to sleep. I didn't use my personal phone for anything but ordering pizza. I didn't talk to anyone about the Nelly's data or the envelope. I meticulously deleted my browser history every night at 9:37 p.m., the arbitrary time burning itself into my routine. I scanned my desk constantly for red envelopes. My heart leaped every time my work phone rang, checking the caller ID with dread. I avoided Highway 160 on my occasional weekend drives. I started noticing black vehicles everywhere. Were there always this many, or was I just primed to see them now? Paranoia became my constant companion, a cold shadow clinging to my back. For 2 months, life continued in this state of suspended terror. Nothing happened. No red envelopes, no system admin calls, no men in blue ties asking for the time. The black SUVs seemed less frequent. Doubt began to creep in. Was it all just an elaborate prank? Had I imagined the clicking on the phone line? Had I overreacted to finding that data anomaly? Maybe I was cracking up. Maybe the soul-crushing boredom of my job had finally done it. And then, on a Tuesday evening in late June, just as the fragile hope of normalcy was beginning to take root, my burner phone, the cheap, untraceable prepaid I'd bought for cash and kept hidden, buzzed. A text message, unknown number, just a string of digits, latitude and longitude, followed by a timestamp for the next afternoon, 3:30 p.m., and 3 stark words: be there. Rule number 10. When the time comes, follow the coordinates provided without question. The time had come. The fragile illusion of normalcy shattered. The game, whatever it was back on. That's when I truly understood. Some secrets aren't just buried, they're guarded by invisible tripwires and cryptic rules. That's when I started down the path that led me here, to understanding what really happens in the shadowed corners of Area 51. Why those Pentagon UFO reports were less than a breadcrumb, a deliberate misdirection from a truth far more complex, far more insidious, and far, far darker. Area 51, the rules, expanded script, block 3, the coordinates, a stark string of numbers on the burner phone's cheap screen. No explanation, just be there, 3:30 p.m. I plotted them on an online map, satellite view, naturally. My stomach did a slow, cold roll. The location pinpointed a desolate patch of desert scrubland about 30 miles east of Groom Lake, well within the vast, restricted Nellis Range complex, though technically outside the infamous, officially denied boundary of Area 51 itself. This was it, the point of no return. Every rational fiber screamed, trap. This is how people disappear in the desert, lured out, dealt with, buried where the coyotes and the sun erase all evidence. But Rule 10 echoed louder. Follow the coordinates without question. I called in sick to Omnicorp, claimed a vicious stomach bug, hoping my strained voice sounded convincing enough. Then the grim ritual of preparation. Packed the trunk of my aging Toyota Camry, not exactly an off-road vehicle, with essentials, extra water bottles that were probably already lukewarm, energy bars that tasted like sweetened cardboard, a first aid kit, a flashlight, a cheap compass, tools for survival, or perhaps just props for the final act. Driving north on Highway 95 felt like piloting a ship into an ocean of shimmering heat. The Nevada desert in late June is an alien landscape, brutal and indifferent. Heat waves distorted the horizon, making the distant mountains tremble. The asphalt radiated heat like a blast furnace. My car's AC wheezed, fighting a losing battle against the 105-degree inferno outside. Sweat glued my t-shirt to the cheap vinyl seat. The turnoff wasn't marked, just a break in the fence, a dirt track vanishing into the creosote and sagebrush. The GPS confirmed it matched the coordinates' approach vector. The Camry bumped and scraped over the uneven ground, kicking up plumes of fine, choking dust, restricted land. No trespassing signs riddled with bullet holes served as grim welcome mats. My hands clenched the steering wheel, knuckles white. Every shadow seemed to move. Every glint of sun on rock looked like watching eyes. I was heading towards the legendary back gate of Area 51, the threshold guarded by the infamous camo dudes and signs warning that lethal force was authorized. The place where conspiracy theories festered like open sores. 3 miles out from the final coordinates, I saw it, tucked behind a cluster of jagged red rocks, almost perfectly camouflaged by the heat haze and shadows. A black SUV, Chevy Suburban maybe, windows tinted to absolute black. I only spotted it because a stray sunbeam caught the windshield, a momentary flash of reflected light in the vast emptiness. Rule 9 slammed into my thoughts. 3 black vehicles parked in sequence. Take an indirect route, home. But this was only one, and I wasn't going home. I forced myself to keep driving, eyes fixed forward, pretending I hadn't seen it, heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Was it surveillance, part of the test, or just standard range security? A mile later, the second one appeared. This one wasn't hiding. It was parked squarely in the middle of the narrow dirt track, forcing me to slow to a crawl and maneuver carefully around it through the rough scrub. Again, black, tinted, windows, no occupants visible, but I could hear the low thrum of its engine idling, even over my own car's struggling AC. Waiting, watching. 2 vehicles, still not 3. My mouth felt like it was full of cotton. The final coordinates led me to a wide, flat basin, utterly exposed. Nothing but low scrub, cracked earth, and the shimmering, indifferent mountains miles away. I pulled the Camry to a stop, killed the engine. The sudden silence was deafening, broken only by the ticking of cooling metal and the faint whisper of the desert wind. I checked the burner phone, 3:17 p.m., 13 minutes until the designated time, 13 minutes to sit in this baking metal box, drowning in paranoia, wondering what fresh hell awaited me. That's when the third vehicle appeared. It crested a low rise to the east, a black silhouette against the blinding sky, trailing a banner of dust. Another SUV. This one wasn't parked, it was moving, heading directly towards me at a steady, unhurried pace. Three black vehicles. Rule 9 screamed, take an indirect route home immediately. But I wasn't home. I was at the designated coordinates, and the third vehicle was actively approaching. Was this the exception? Was the rule about parked vehicles? Or was this the final test? Obey the coordinates or the evasion protocol? My hand instinctively went to the ignition key, ready to floor it, to spin the Camry around and flee back towards the highway, towards sanity. Just as my fingers closed, around the key, the burner phone buzzed violently in my hand. A new text, unknown number. 2 words, stay. Compliance will be rewarded. Rewarded or punished less severely. The approaching SUV slowed, pulling to a stop about 50 yards away. The driver's door opened. A man emerged, dark suit, crisp white shirt, seemingly impervious to the brutal heat. Dark sunglasses hid his eyes. He didn't move towards me, just stood beside his vehicle, an impassive sentinel in the wasteland, waiting, watching. Exactly at 3:30 p.m., the burner phone buzzed again. I glanced down. The screen wasn't displaying a message, it was a countdown timer, starting at 60 cow, 60 minutes. 60 cow, 59, 59, 59, 58. I looked up. The man in the suit was walking towards me, slow, deliberate steps, crunching on the dry earth. Every nerve ending screamed, danger, drive, get out. But the text message, stay, and the sheer paralyzing weirdness of the situation held me rooted to the spot. He stopped beside my driver's side window, gestured downwards, rolled down the window. My hand moved as if disconnected from my brain. The window whirred down, letting in a blast of superheated air that smelled of dust and sage. Timothy Weiss. His voice was flat, toneless, devoid of inflection. It wasn't a question. Yes? My voice was a dry croak. You've been following the protocols. Again, a statement. Yes. He removed his sunglasses. His eyes were the palest blue I'd ever seen, almost translucent, unsettlingly. Empty, they seemed to look through me rather than at me. Do you know why? I swallowed, the sound loud in the silence. Because someone told me to, if I wanted to live. A flicker of something, amusement, satisfaction, touched the corners of his thin lips, a smile that didn't reach those chilling eyes. And do you want to live, Timothy? Before I could stammer out an answer, he reached into his suit jacket and produced a small metallic object. Sleek, silver, looked like a high-end USB flash drive. He held it out to me. The answers you've been looking for, he said, his voice still monotone. A glimpse, a taste of what's really happening, what's coming. He glanced pointedly at the burner phone resting on my passenger seat, its screen still ticking down the seconds. You have precisely 1 hour, starting from the moment the countdown began, to review this information. Then you will erase the drive, return to Henderson, and resume your normal routine. Surveillance protocols will re-engage 60 minutes after your designated return time. Understood. My mind reeled. 1 hour. Review what? Erase it? Return to normal? What? What happens if I don't? If I don't go back? The thin smile vanished instantly. Rule violation. Consequences are significant. You don't want that. What happens if I break one of the rules? You never said. It depends, he replied cryptically, putting his sunglasses back on, severing the disturbing eye contact. Some rules protect you from us. Others protect you from them. Without another word, he turned and walked back to his SUV. As he drove away, disappearing back over the rise, the other 2 black SUVs, the ones that had been waiting, started their engines simultaneously and followed him, vanishing into the heat haze. I was alone again. Alone in the vast, silent desert, the sun beating down, the USB drive feeling impossibly heavy in my sweating palm, and the countdown on my phone, digital hourglass reminding me that my borrowed time was slipping away. Look at the drive or throw it out the window, drive away and pretend this nightmare never happened. The sane choice was obvious. Instead, I pulled my work laptop from its bag on the passenger seat, flipped it open and plugged in the drive. Area 51, the rules, expanded script, block 4. The USB drive slid into the port with a soft click. My laptop recognized it instantly. Drive E. No label, just there. Inside, a single file, P7734PS. The file extension wasn't familiar, not a standard document, image, or video format. Some kind of proprietary government archive, or something else entirely. My hands, slick with sweat despite the car's struggling AC, hovered over the keyboard. The countdown on the burner phone glared accusingly from the passenger seat. 58:14, 58:13. Less than an hour to decipher this, erase it, and drive back to the suffocating normalcy of Henderson, pretending this desert rendezvous never happened. Double-click. The file didn't open. Instead, a stark, simple dialog box popped up. Password required. Of course. Nothing this sensitive would be unprotected, but what password? The man in the suit hadn't given me one. Was this another test? A riddle hidden within the rules? My mind raced. Obvious choices first. My name? Access denied. My birth date? Access denied. Area 51, Groom Lake, aliens, UAP. Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. Frustration clawed at me. Each failed attempt felt like another grain of sand slipping through the hourglass. Think, Tim. Think. The man in the suit. His words. You've been following the protocols. Protocols. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. A key. I typed it in, fingers fumbling slightly. PROTOCOLS. Enter. Access granted. The dialog box vanished. The file opened. And it wasn't what I expected. Not grainy photos of flying saucers, not autopsy reports of little grey men, not schematics for reverse-engineered alien tech. No, it was far more mundane and infinitely more terrifying. An email archive, a self-contained offline database, likely purged from a secure server. Hundreds, maybe thousands of messages. Sender and recipient names were mostly redacted, replaced with alphanumeric codes or department designators. But the subject lines, they painted a picture of chilling, bureaucratic horror. Re-sampling protocols, post-contact event, Delta 9. Urgent, updated containment. Procedures, biomaterials Sigma, cognitive shift assessment, personnel batch 7G confidential. Casualty report, exploration team Kilo, redacted. Incursion alert, sector 4, Cat B penetration. My skin prickled. This wasn't theoretical research. This was operational, ongoing. I clicked on the most recent email chain, dated just 3 weeks prior. Sender, redacted. Recipient, Dr. Holloway, designation redacted. Subject, escalation pattern and comms protocol update, Doc H. Detection grid registered 17 distinct incursion events past 72 hours, represents 340% increase over established baseline. 3 events penetrated to Category B depth before signature loss. Analysis suggests coordinated probing or environmental shift. Cannot maintain weather balloon experimental drone narrative if escalation continues at this rate. Recommend immediate implementation, Scarlet Protocol for all public-facing communications, RUGO, anomalous aerial phenomena. Pentagon UAP disclosure appears to have been counterproductive. Correlation suggests they are responding directly to our acknowledgement. Increased activity commenced Q3 21. Further concern, 4 additional personnel exhibiting early stage 2 exposure symptoms, post-recovery OP Delta 9, Team Lead Davies showing concerning behavioral anomalies. Recommend immediate Indigo Protocol processing for all 5. Biosample analysis indicates recovered material consistent with at least 3 distinct source populations based on genomic markers. Not a unified intelligence as previously theorized. Request updated threat matrix. Redacted. 17 incursions in 3 days, distinct source populations, exposure symptoms, Indigo Protocol, Scarlet Protocol. My mind struggled to process the jargon, the cold, detached language describing events that sounded like science fiction horror. The Pentagon disclosure hadn't been transparency. It had been poking the hornet's nest. And they responded. I clicked frantically through other emails. One discussed new detention protocols following a Tuesday breach, a chillingly casual term. Civilians encountering Category C materials or exhibiting Stage 1+ symptoms are to be processed via Indigo Protocol immediately. No exceptions. Exposure level and security clearance irrelevant. It contained a line that froze my blood. Note: subject perception versus instrument readings will remain inconsistent. This is not sensor failure or subjective misinterpretation. It is a critical feature of their biomimetic cognitive interface capabilities. Do not attempt to reconcile subject testimony with sensor data during Indigo processing. Biomimetic cognitive interface? What they see isn't what we see. The email referenced mandatory updates to psychological screening for personnel, stating bluntly, "We have lost too many good people to post-contact psychosis or assimilation." Assimilation. My eyes flicked to the countdown. 39:16, 39:15. Time was bleeding away. I found a file attached to an email chain. Incident report. Noye County, Mars 17, 2023, PDF. I opened it. A field report. March 17th, just over a month before I found the data anomaly. Location, 12 miles northeast of Beatty, Nevada, on the edge of the Nellis Range. Local sheriff's deputy responded to 911 call. Strange lights, property damage, agitated resident. Farmer Ronald Keene, age 62, claimed something from the sky, took samples from his cattle during the night. The deputy found Keene disoriented, ranting, also found unusual scorch marks, patches of vitrified soil, strange metallic debris. A federal team arrived 43 minutes later. Their findings: evidence consistent with Category B incursion event. EM anomalies detected. Soil disruption matches known landing configuration, Sigma 7. Trace radiation detected. Biomimetic residue found on subject's hands, face and clothing. Keene himself? Subject exhibits early stage 2 contact symptoms, temporal, disorientation, linguistic drift, acute photosensitivity, dermal sensitivity, claims metallic taste. The report concluded, subject secured via non-lethal means. Transported to Facility 7 for Indigo Protocol processing. Cover story disseminated via local LE liaison. Deputy Miller administered standard cognitive adjustment protocol, returned to duty. Livestock remains collected, exhibit precision surgical extraction of specific neural and reproductive tissues. Fourth Cat B event in Nye County this fiscal quarter. Cognitive adjustment, Indigo processing, Facility 7. This wasn't just observation. This was active engagement, containment, cover-up, happening right under the noses of ordinary people. Ronald Keane wasn't crazy. He was a victim, processed and disappeared by a system terrified of the truth getting out. I scanned through more files, a horrifying mosaic assembling itself piece by piece. Incursions weren't just increasing, they were becoming bolder. Whoever or whatever they were, from multiple source populations, were harvesting biological material, interacting with the environment, and leaving behind technology and biological residue that affected humans in terrifying ways. The government wasn't just studying UFOs, they were fighting a shadow war, losing personnel to psychosis or assimilation, and desperately trying to understand and perhaps control the phenomena. I found the exposure symptoms file mentioned in the email. A clinical, terrifying breakdown. Stage 1, temporal disorientation, photosensitivity, metallic taste, minor auditory hallucinations. Stage 2, memory gaps, linguistic drift, elevated core temp, persistent visual artifacts, unusual dreams. Stage 3, acute paranoia, measurable physical anomalies, cognitive fragmentation, echo behavior, potential for violent outbursts. Stage 4, data redacted. A stark note followed. Progression to Stage 3 indicates irreversible neurological, biological alteration. Indigo Protocol mandatory. Cognitive reasoning de-escalation attempts contraindicated and have resulted in unacceptable personnel losses. Irreversible. Indigo Protocol wasn't treatment, it was disposal. The countdown showed 14:32. I had to leave, had to erase this drive back, pretend to be ignorant Tim Weiss, data analyst. But my fingers had a mind of their own, clicking on one last document that screamed for attention. Executive summary, Project Looking Glass. Eyes. Only, it described recovered artifacts, not whole ships, but fragments, devices, biological samples that defied all known physics and biology. 5 key points jumped out. 1. Origin, non-terrestrial confirmed via isotopic analysis. Multiple distinct origins suspected. 2. Nature, not purely technological. A bio-integrated system, living components interface with exotic hardware. 3. Interface, responds to direct cognitive input intent. Mechanism unknown, non-replicable with current human tech. 4. Viability, biological components remain active, even regenerative, after separation from host vessel. 5. Temporal effects, causes localized temporal distortions, paradoxes, inconsistent with general relativity. Models fail. The summary mentioned activating certain devices, windows, that showed glimpses of possible future timelines. 3 consistent probabilistic nodes appeared across multiple activations, but the details were heavily redacted, marked Scarlet Echo Clearance Only. The project lead director Hansen was listed as missing presumed compromised following a testing incident in 2019. The recommendation? Continue limited testing under extreme containment. My head spun. Time travel? Biological machines, cognitive interfaces. This was beyond anything I'd ever imagined. I scrolled faster, catching fragments, harvesting operations, cognitive restructuring, Eclipse protocol. The phone buzzed. 05, Jews. 5 minutes left. Get out. Erase the drive. Run. One last. File name snagged my eye. Watch list. Active subjects.xlsc. An Excel spreadsheet? In this archive of horrors, I clicked it open. A list of names. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Each with designation codes, status markers, risk assessments. My eyes scanned down the list looking for I didn't know what. Then I saw it near the bottom. Weiss, Timothy R. ID 7734 Omega. Status, active surveillance. Trigger, data anomaly query. Protocol, rules implemented. Assessment, low flight risk, high. Curiosity, potential stage 1 exposure. Action, coordinate delivery. Monitor compliance. Prepare Indigo processing pending review. My name. My ID number matching the file name prefix. Potential stage 1 exposure. Prepare Indigo processing. They weren't trying to help me. The rules weren't protection. They were assessment, manipulation, a test to see if I'd comply before they processed me. Like Ronald Keane, like the others. The countdown hit 010. I had to erase the drive. I had to run. But where could I possibly run to? Area 51, the rules, expanded script, Block 5 Indigo processing, potential stage 1 exposure, watch list active. The words swam before my eyes, stark black pixels on the laptop screen forming a death sentence. The rules weren't a shield, they were a cage, a set of behavioral parameters designed to keep me docile, observable, until they decided it was time to process me. The countdown on the burner phone hit 0. 100. Tut. My hour was up. A new text message flashed onto the screen. Unknown number. Erasure protocol active. Comply now. Comply, erase the drive. Drive back. Resume normal routine. Pretend I hadn't seen my own name on a list of targets marked for disposal. Pretend the rabbit hole I'd fallen down didn't end in a sterile room in some numbered facility. My hands shook uncontrollably. Erase it. Erase the only proof I had. Erase Ayako's... No, wrong nightmare. Erase the evidence compiled by whoever the man in the suit worked for. Evidence that proved the UAP reports were a smokescreen for something far more invasive, far more terrifying. But the alternative, rule violation, consequences. They knew I had the drive. They knew my time was up. What happened if I didn't comply now? Would the black SUVs reappear over the horizon? Would they remotely disable my car? Would they simply erase me out here in the desolate wasteland? Panic made the decision for me. Survival instinct, primal and overriding, took over. I fumbled with the trackpad, found the drive icon, right-clicked. Secure erase, multiple passes. Whatever was on that drive, I couldn't let them know I still had it, even if destroying it felt like cutting out my own tongue. The laptop whirred as it overwrote the data. While it worked, I scanned the desert horizon. Empty, silent. Just the oppressive sun and the shimmering heat waves. But the emptiness felt watchful now, pregnant with unseen threats. Erasure complete. The message flashed on the screen. I ripped the USB drive from the port, the metal warm against my skin. Without thinking, I threw it as far as I could out the open car window, watching it arc into the scrub brush, disappearing instantly against the brown earth. Evidence gone. Plausible deniability. Maybe. Or maybe just delaying the inevitable. Start the car, drive, get back to Henderson, blend in. Rule 3. Maintain normal routine. But how could any routine be normal now? Knowing I was tagged, monitored, scheduled for processing. Knowing that they, multiple alien populations, were actively engaging with our planet, harvesting, leaving behind technology that warped time and biology. Knowing the government wasn't protecting us, but managing a containment failure, sacrificing its own citizens along the way, I drove back down the dirt track faster than I should have, the Camry bottoming out on rocks, dust billowing behind me. My eyes scanned constantly for the black SUVs. Nothing. Was the absence of surveillance reassuring, or just part of their psychological game? Reaching Highway 95 felt like surfacing for air after being held underwater. Paved road, other cars, signs of civilization. But it was a fragile illusion. Every car behind me felt like a tale. Every distant glint of sun on metal looked like watching optics. I checked the time, 4:45 p.m. I needed to be back in Henderson, back in my apartment, resuming normalcy before the 60-minute grace period after my designated return time expired. That gave me roughly until 6:10 p.m., assuming they calculated my return based on the 1-hour review period ending at 4:30 p.m., cutting it close. Traffic near Vegas slowed me down. Every red light felt like a personal affront. Every slow driver a deliberate obstacle. Paranoia gnawed at me. Were they watching my progress? Did they have trackers on my car I didn't know about? The cheap burner phone remained silent on the passenger seat, a dead weight. I made it back to my apartment complex at 6:02 p.m. 8 minutes to spare. I parked in my usual spot, forcing myself to walk normally towards my building, resisting the urge to sprint, to look over my shoulder. Act normal. Rule 3. Inside my apartment, the stale air felt suffocating. I locked the door, bolted it, leaned against it, heart pounding, sweat dripping. Safe? No, just back in the designated observation zone. The cage. What now? Resume normal routine. Make dinner, watch TV, pretend I hadn't spent the afternoon in the desert receiving classified files. From a menacing government agent about an alien shadow war. I went through the motions, microwaved a frozen lasagna that tasted like ash, turned on the TV, stared blankly at some mindless sitcom, checked my work email on my laptop, nothing unusual, checked my personal email, junk mail, bills, normalcy, a suffocating, terrifying normalcy. At exactly 9:37 p.m., as Rule 6 dictated, I meticulously deleted my browser history and system cache. The arbitrary precision of the act felt like a ritualistic acknowledgement of my captivity. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the building, every distant siren, every shadow in the corner of my eye sent jolts of adrenaline through me. I kept seeing those pale blue eyes, hearing the flat voice. Some rules protect you from us, others protect you from them. Who were us, who were them, and which rules were which? Was the warning about Highway 160 between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. protecting me from a government operation or from an alien abduction? Was the red envelope a message from the government or a lure from them? Was the man in the blue tie one of us testing my compliance or one of them identifying targets? The rules weren't a safety net. They were a tightrope walk over an abyss, and I didn't know who controlled the rope or what waited below if I fell. All I knew was that I was on a list marked for disposal, and the only thing keeping me alive, for now, was my terrified, meticulous compliance with a set of rules I didn't understand, issued by forces I couldn't see in a war I never knew existed. Area 51. The rules. Expanded script. Block 6. The days that followed blurred into a monotonous cycle of hypervigilance and feigned normalcy. Work became a stage where I performed the role of Timothy Weiss, data analyst. I clicked spreadsheets, attended pointless meetings, made small talk by the coffee machine, all while a part of my brain ran constant threat assessments. Was that new guy in IT watching me? Did the slight pause in my manager's voice mean something? Was the flickering fluorescent light above my cubicle a sensor malfunction or just a flickering light? My apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a glass cage. I scanned for bugs, checked the locks obsessively, jumped at every unexpected noise. I stopped ordering food delivery, too many variables, too many strangers near my door. My diet devolved into canned soup and crackers. Sleep offered little respite, filled with fragmented nightmares of pale blue, eyes, cryptic rules, and shadowy figures lurking just beyond my peripheral vision. Stage 2 symptoms bleeding into my subconscious. I tried to subtly probe the Omnicorp systems again, looking for anything related to Project Looking Glass, Indigo Protocol, or Facility 7, but my access seemed different. Queries that worked before now returned errors or required higher clearance. Had they flagged my initial digging and quietly restricted my access? Or was it just paranoia making me see patterns where none existed? One Tuesday morning, heading into the office, I stepped into the elevator. A man was already inside, holding a briefcase. Average height, brown hair, unremarkable gray suit, except for the tie. A vibrant electric blue tie. My breath hitched. Rule 7. If a man wearing a distinct blue tie asks you for the time, reply only, "It's later than you think." He glanced at me, a neutral expression on his face. The elevator doors slid shut, encasing us in a small humming box. Silence, stretched, thick with unspoken tension. My heart pounded against my ribs. Was he going to ask? Was this the test? He cleared his throat. I braced myself. He adjusted his briefcase, still silent. The elevator stopped at his floor, 2 below mine. He nodded curtly as he stepped out, never having uttered a word to me. I leaned against the elevator wall, legs weak with relief, or perhaps just deferred terror. Was it him, or just a random guy with a blue tie? The ambiguity was part of the torture. They wanted me constantly guessing, constantly on edge. Another incident happened a week later. I was driving home from work, stuck in rush hour traffic. Glancing in my rearview mirror, I saw them. 3 cars back. A black Ford Explorer. Behind it, a black Dodge Charger. Behind that, a black Cadillac Escalade. Different makes, different models, but black, and parked in sequence in the crawling traffic. Rule 9. If you see 3 black vehicles parked in sequence, take an indirect route home, immediately. But I was on the freeway, boxed in. Taking an indirect route was impossible without causing an accident or driving onto the shoulder. Was traffic an exception, or was this another test of compliance under pressure? My hands gripped the wheel, sweat beading on my forehead. I focused on the brake lights ahead, trying to breathe normally, expecting flashing lights, a forced stop. Something. Then the Explorer signaled, peeled off at the next exit. The sequence was broken. 2 black vehicles remained, but the trigger condition was gone. Coincidence, or had they seen me notice? Had they deliberately broken formation to maintain my uncertainty? The constant stress was eroding me. I lost weight. My hands developed a slight tremor. I started having trouble concentrating, misplacing things, forgetting simple tasks. Stage 2 symptoms, or just the effects of chronic fear and sleep deprivation. The lines were blurring. I knew I couldn't live like this indefinitely. Compliance was keeping me alive, maybe, but it was a slow death of the soul. I had to do something. But what? Going to the authorities was unthinkable. The files proved the authorities were the problem, or at least deeply complicit. Contacting the media, who would believe me without proof? The USB drive was gone, buried somewhere in the desert scrub. My only hope, faint as it was, lay in understanding more. If I could figure out why they were watching me, what the data anomaly truly represented, maybe I could find leverage. Maybe I could understand the distinction between us and them. Maybe I could figure out which rules were truly for my protection. I started small, using library computers during my lunch break, searching obscure academic databases for terms from the emails, biomimetics, cognitive interfaces, temporal disorientation, Project Looking Glass. I used encrypted browsers, public Wi-Fi, taking precautions that felt laughably inadequate against the resources they likely possessed. Most searches were dead ends, but I found scattered references. A declassified paper from the 70s discussing anomalous neurological effects on pilots near certain test ranges. a theoretical physics article hypothesizing about localized temporal fields generated by exotic matter, a fringe biology paper speculating on silicon-based life forms capable of mimicking organic structures, breadcrumbs, nothing concrete, nothing that connected directly back to Area 51 or the protocols. But it was something. It suggested the concepts weren't entirely fabricated for my torment. One evening, while researching at the library, I stumbled upon an old digitized newspaper archive from the Pahrump Valley Times. An article from 1988 mentioned strange disappearances along Highway 160, particularly between midnight and dawn. Ranchers reported missing livestock, hikers vanished without a trace. The official explanations ranged from animal attacks to people getting lost in the desert. But the frequency, the specific location, the time frame, it echoed Rule 8. Never take Highway 160 between 2:10 a.m. and 4 a.m. Was this them? Were the disappearances related to the harvesting operations mentioned in the files? Was Rule 8 protecting me from becoming another statistic, another footnote in a local newspaper, another case file marked unexplained while my tissues were analyzed in Facility 7? The library lights flickered overhead. I suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable even here, surrounded by oblivious students and retirees. I logged off quickly, gathered my things, and headed out into the twilight, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on me heavier than ever. Area 51, the rules, expanded script. Block 7. The library research felt like searching for a single grain of sand on a vast beach, blindfolded. Every potential lead dissolved into speculation or dead ends. The entities behind the protocols, behind the incursions, remained frustratingly opaque. Were they government black ops using alien tech? Were they the aliens themselves, manipulating us through controlled disclosures and cryptic rules? Or was it something even stranger, a symbiotic nightmare where the lines between human and non-human had blurred entirely? The watchlist entry haunted me. Potential Stage 1, exposure. Remote sensing? Were they scanning me somehow? Through my phone? My laptop? The building's wiring? The paranoia intensified, becoming a physical presence, a constant pressure. Behind my eyes, I started seeing things, or thought I did, flickering movements in my peripheral vision that vanished when I turned to look. Familiar faces momentarily seeming wrong, their expressions subtly distorted, their eyes reflecting an unnerving emptiness before snapping back to normal. Was it the stress, the lack of sleep, or was it Stage 2 kicking in, the persistent visual artifacts the files described? I needed proof, something tangible, something I could show someone, anyone. If I ever found someone I could trust, a prospect that seemed increasingly unlikely. The erased USB drive was a ghost, mocking my impotence. My mind kept circling back to the initial data anomaly at Nellis, the strange requisitions. That was the thread I'd pulled that unraveled everything. Could I find it again? Could I access it differently? OmniCorp's network felt like hostile territory now. I knew my regular login was likely monitored, my access restricted. But maybe there was another way. Old system backups, archived project folders. Security protocols often had loopholes, legacy systems, forgotten vulnerabilities. It was a long shot, bordering on suicidal given the surveillance, but inaction felt like passively waiting for the Indigo Protocol. Working late again, under the guise of catching up on reports, I began carefully probing the OmniCorp network architecture from my work terminal. Not accessing the restricted databases directly, but mapping connections, looking for forgotten servers, misconfigured access points. It was like tiptoeing through a digital minefield. Every click felt amplified, every slow network response a potential alarm bell. Days turned into a week of this cautious digital exploration. I found traces. Fragmented log files mentioning project codes that didn't exist in the current directory. References to data migrations from servers that were now offline. Encrypted communication channels used by departments I'd never heard of. More breadcrumbs, tantalizingly close, yet revealing nothing concrete about the specific requisitions I'd first flagged. Then, one evening, deep in an archived server directory supposedly containing only outdated HR records, I found it. A mislabeled folder. Inside, not personnel files, but encrypted data packets with timestamps matching the period of the anomalous requisitions. My heart leaped. Could this be it? Raw data, perhaps, before it was processed and routed through the monitored channels. I quickly initiated a transfer to a heavily encrypted partition on my local drive, disguising it as a large system update file download. The progress bar crawled. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting security personnel to burst through the door. The transfer completed. I immediately initiated a secure wipe of the temporary files, covered my tracks as best I could, logged off, and practically ran out of the office, the encrypted data feeling like a ticking bomb on my laptop. Back in the dubious safety of my apartment, I worked for hours trying to decrypt the packets. Standard decryption algorithms failed. It wasn't military-grade encryption. It felt different. Alien, almost, echoing the description of the bio-integrated systems from the Looking Glass summary. Was the data itself protected by their technology? Just as I was about to give up, one packet yielded, not fully decrypted but partially reconstructed. It wasn't requisition data. It was telemetry, flight path data from an object designated AX-7. The trajectory originated from outside the solar system, performed impossible non-ballistic maneuvers near Jupiter, then made a direct, high-velocity run towards Earth, specifically towards the Nevada region. The timestamp matched one of the first anomalous requisition spikes I'd noticed, the period when orders for specialized atmospheric sensors and containment units suddenly increased. Before I could decrypt more, my laptop screen flickered violently. Lines of corrupted code scrolled past at blinding speed, then blackness, dead, completely unresponsive, not just crashed, fried. The power light was off. The battery was fully charged, but it was as if the internal circuitry had been instantly cooked. Remote kill switch? A defensive measure triggered by my decryption attempt? They knew I'd found something. They'd let me dig, let me find the folder, let me download the data just to see what I would do. And when I got too close, they slammed the door shut, bricking my machine. The burner phone on the table beside me suddenly rang. Not a buzz, but a shrill, piercing ringtone I'd never heard before. I froze. Caller ID, not unknown number, not system admin. It displayed a single chilling word: them. Rule 5. If you receive a call with the caller ID system admin, do not answer. This wasn't system admin. This was the other side, the ones the rules were supposed to protect me from. Or was this just another layer of the government's cruel manipulation? The phone continued its piercing shriek. Answer it, ignore it. Which rule applied here? My hand hovered over the phone, trembling. The sound drilled into my skull, each ring stripping away another layer of my sanity.